On episode 315 of the podcast, we are talking about habits and how to create habits quickly and easily without relying on willpower. And we talk about the one habit that video business owners should embrace, the one habit to rule them all. What's up, friend? Hey, I am Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business podcast, the show for corporate and commercial filmmakers where we talk about the business of production. I'm super excited that you're here. It's a new year. We're rolling. I'm sure that you are crushing your New Year's resolutions, right? Because that's what we all do. Or maybe you're old like me and you kind of stop doing that because you're just like, they just don't work. And there's a different way. There's a better way. Is there a better way? My friend, yes, there is a better way. And this episode is super juicy, and it's just gonna solve all the problems that you've ever had. Just kidding. Before we get in, if you're wanting to create some habits for you, your business, your personal life this year that are going to help you, this is the episode. You're in the right place. Also, if you want that extra push for your business, I want to invite you to our upcoming free 5-day Grow Your Video Business Challenge, which is designed to help you get more leads, more clients, and to be able to charge higher rates without the endless hustle. Over the 5 days of this challenge, we're going to cover different topics. We're going to create specific actionable challenges, things that you can do on that day for everyone to help move the needle in their business. For you to move the needle in your business, we've got live teaching every day. Day one is all about increasing your profits, the money that you make on every job. Day two is about bigger sales, how to get bigger sales. Day three is how to get more clients. Day four is how to get more clients, part two, because there's so much to cover, and I'm excited to do 2 days this year on that. And then day five is what we call the solid plan, where you'll walk away with a step-by-step action plan on how to implement all of the things that you're going to learn over the course of the week, and then really like how to set yourself up for success beyond the challenge. I have hosted this event for the past 2 years, so this is going to be year number 3, and I almost consider not doing it because I was like, the content's good. It's a good reminder, but I was inspired when I started thinking about it, and I came up with a couple of more ideas on things that I want to be able to cover, including the 2 days on getting more clients. So I'm really, really excited. I wouldn't be doing this also if I didn't get such high praise and thanks for hosting it, because people really have found it incredibly valuable. So that's probably the number one reason, and the number two is because I got re-inspired with some fresh content. So I'm really excited we're bringing it back. It's completely free. You can sign up and become part of it. This thing starts next week. So it starts January 16th. Go to studiosherpas.com/challenge. And even if you can't show up to all 5 days of the live sessions, you'll still be able to watch the replays each day. You'll still be able to chat. You'll be able to meet a ton of other filmmakers. And we're just building this incredible community of people that are givers, that are helpers. So no matter where you're at in your video business journey, there is a place for you here, and we'd love to have you part of the challenge. Again, you can go to studiosherpas.com/challenge to get all the information to register, so you're getting into the room where we're going to do the lives. You're going to be able to access the replays and all that stuff. Can't wait to see you. Now let's jump into this amazing episode with my incredibly gifted friend Linda. Here we go. What's up, friends? Welcome to this episode of the podcast. Today, I've got with me Linda Fogg-Phillips, who is amazing. She is the director of Tiny Habits Academy, which offers courses that teach individuals and professionals how to create habits quickly and easily without relying on willpower. Not only her bio is so impressive. She has been doing so many amazing things over the course of her career. And the fact that I actually can call her a friend, I have her cell phone number. I send her hilarious gifts of me dancing. I don't know what I send, but I love that.
You make my day.
Yeah, exactly. Being in the mastermind with you in Mike's group has been so awesome, and meeting you in person in Nashville, we had so much fun. I got to make fun of you and your daughter. That was a blast. You guys are like afraid of tornadoes or something like that's not really that big of a deal. Anyway, Linda, welcome to the show. So glad that you're here.
Oh, thank you, Ryan/Jeff. I appreciate that.
Oh my gosh. I should have known.
Oh my goodness. You really have a soft spot in my heart as well as my daughter's heart, because you are just so magnetic and you're just immediately a great friend. So thank you for having me on here for so many different reasons, but mostly because I love serving my friends and their audiences. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, I've been looking forward to this. So I love the work that you do. You made me cry at Mike's event as you shared your story. So incredibly powerful in the things that you've overcome. I said it at the event to you, and I just want to take a moment here to say I'm so impressed. You have 8 kids.
Yeah, crazy, huh?
And, the legacy that you've built and the work that you're doing today, and you're just a workhorse. I mean, you work so hard. You are relentless. You are passionate, and you have a strong desire to make a big impact. And I assume you know this, but you are. And I just want to say thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And I love the we're talking about habits, and this is your jam. I mean, this is like your thing. And I feel like for me as a business owner, especially early on, I had the worst habits. I didn't know how to run a business. Nobody does before they actually do it. And I didn't have anybody in my life growing up that had really good habits. Lots of bad habits. I mean, lots of bad habits. But then to figure out how to change behavior, habits, so difficult without a roadmap, right? Because otherwise, I love in your bio, it's like without having to rely on willpower, because it just doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. Like maybe in some things I've been able to power through and push through, but in most of the habits and the things that I do or have done in the past that I don't want to do, willpower wasn't enough. So I am very passionate about this topic, and I would just ask you, why do you feel like this is an area that you can speak into and to be able to help the thousands and thousands of people? I'm probably way underquoting that number, but all of the people that you guys have been helping change their habits and do the things that they actually want to be doing.
Well, Ryan, you're right. So many people try to use willpower to create habits, or what they might say motivation. And that is a failing approach. In fact, by this time of the year, most of us have set, quote unquote, New Year's resolutions, or maybe we're old enough now to know that those typically don't work. And so we don't set them, but we get frustrated because we want to improve our lives, especially as business owners. We want to have an impact in the world, and we want to run our businesses smoothly, but we frustrate ourselves because we try to create habits, but we do rely on the old thinking and the old approaches that simply don't work and have failed us in the past. We all have a history of that. So to answer your question, why am I doing this? Why, I have seen the impact that helping people learn the right way to create habits and to create hope. It basically comes down to helping people create hope or gain back hope, giving them tools and techniques. And basically, we look at habit formation as a skill, helping them develop the skill where they can create the life that they want, a life that helps them feel good and a life that helps them help others. And so that's why I'm doing this. But let me take that one step further and why I'm so passionate about the Tiny Habits method and the Pearl Habits method. They are related methods. The Tiny Habits method was designed by my brother, Dr. B.J. Fogg from Stanford University. Yes, a lot of people have quoted him. A lot of people have, quote unquote, used his content, but that's okay because we feel like it's still getting out into the world. The Tiny Habits method is a systematic approach that's scientifically proven to help people create habits. There's what we call the ABCs of habit formation. And I'll get into that a little bit later, but just wanted to call that out so you can start, basically to provide a little curiosity about what are those ABCs.
Yeah.
But before we go into those ABCs, I want to share with you how the Tiny Habits method has impacted my life and changed my life. And if it can help me, I know that it can help many other people. It can help you in any area of your life that you want to be successful and productive in. Yeah. In the early days, well, and as you mentioned, the last decade of my life has been a little rough, so to speak. I've lost a 20-year-old son to an accidental Oxycontin overdose. That was devastating to us. After Garrett's death, I became pretty apathetic. I became depressed. I had a hard time functioning just simply because losing a son, there's nothing harder for anyone than to lose a child. After Garrett's death, and this was in the early days of Tiny Habits as well, I was really trying to get my feet under me. I had other children to care for, but getting out of bed every day was simply a struggle. My brother, BJ, and I are very close. And one day on the phone, as we were talking, and he knew that I was really struggling with life, he suggested that I practice this new tiny habit. And this habit now has a name. We now call it the Maui habit. But this was the habit that he suggested that I practice. It was after my feet hit the floor in the morning, I will say it's going to be a great day. And then celebrate by attaching a positive emotion to that. Maybe it's like, yes, or good job, or yes, I did it. And BJ's pretty smart. And I thought, okay, BJ knows what he's talking about. This isn't going to take a lot of time to do, and it's not going to hurt me to do it. I might as well try it. Within about 3 to 4 days of practicing that habit, something unexpected happened. My perspective shifted. I was able to move myself out of that mindset of being a victim, the poor me, into a victor. I was able to start my day off on a positive thought and a positive foot, so to speak, by anticipating or stating that it was going to be a great day. Now, even though days were hard, and I knew some days were going to be more challenging than others, by making that statement, what that did is it made me more aware to subconsciously watch for the magic moments in my day. And so that was a very powerful habit to help me change my perspective and to really take my life back. It allowed me to realize that I could choose. I could choose for my day to control me, or I could choose to control my day. And so by saying the Maui habit, and it's as small and it's really, you think, oh, it's inconsequential, but it really is impactful because it helps you start your day with a positive mindset. And when you celebrate, you also release endorphins and dopamine, and those are our feel-good chemicals. So when I realized that that was a tool, a very easy tool, that would help transform my life in allowing me to show up more positively and to help others, I knew that this was a breakthrough, not just for me, but a breakthrough that others could have as well.
It's just so interesting listening to you suffer this like devastating loss in your life. And I don't want to like minimize, but and it's called Tiny Habits, I think, for a reason, but it almost just seems like too small of a thing. Like really like, putting your feet on the ground and saying like, it's going to be a great day. And what would you normally attach? Like, would you say yes? Or like, what was your thing that you would attach that with?
Yeah, my go-to celebration, and the celebration, and this is part of the ABC of the Tiny Habits method, the C is the instant celebration. The celebration is anything that helps you feel good. For me, it was like a thumbs up and saying, yes, I did it, simply because just doing that sometimes was more than I thought I could do. So it's like, yes, I did it. One of my favorite celebrations right now is, it's just basically anything that can help you feel good. Let's see, I'll pull this up since we're on video. One of my favorite celebrations is this right here. Looking at my 2 daughters on my screen, my 2 granddaughters, not my daughters. I'm too old to be their mom, but my two granddaughters on my screensaver that are hugging each other. And that makes me feel good. That makes me feel warm inside. That helps me pull up those positive emotions that now I can use to reinforce the habits that I want to create. That's the celebration piece. So let's go back to the ABCs. The A of the tiny habits method is the anchor moment. Now you'll notice with Maui habit, the anchor moment was after my feet hit the floor in the morning. Anchor moments are prompts. They are existing routines that are already part of our daily life. So we attach then a tiny behavior, that's the B, the behavior, to the anchor moment. So the anchor moment prompts the tiny behavior, and then we reinforce that tiny behavior with a positive emotion, with a good feeling. Not a piece of chocolate, not a glass of wine. There's a lot of fallacies in the world today about habit formation, and rewards is one of them. Rewards do not create habits. Rewards are great, but it's the instant attachment of a positive emotion that creates a habit.
So what would be some other anchor moments examples?
Well, let me ask you, I'm going to put you in the hot seat here, Ryan.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Uh-oh. So from the time you got up this morning to the time where you started your work day, whatever point that was, let's talk through some of the things that you do and you typically do on a daily basis.
I get up, I put my feet on the floor. I'm like, it's going to be a great day. Today's going to be a great day. No, I don't do that. But I do like try to like consciously like, all right, here we go. Yeah. Usually go to the basement. I'll do a workout. Now, I will say I did not do that today.
That's okay.
I made a decision last week. I was like, I'm in Christmas mode, and I'm like, this week, last week, next week, I'm done. But normally I'll work out. Then I'll take my kids to school. Then I go back home. I walk Hazel to school, and then I'm making a cup of coffee and going back to usually going to the basement to do like 90 minutes of deep work and start the work day.
All right. So those are all existing routines that you could use as anchor moments. There are probably a few more inserted in there, and I'm going to share them with you. I am assuming, and you can say yes or no, or you can give me thumbs up or thumbs down. I'm assuming after you get up, you probably use the bathroom, right? You probably flush the toilet. Okay. Most of us do. I assume
never wash my hands, though.
You never wash your hands?
Big thumbs down on that. I mean, why would you?
I'm not going to shake your hand next time I see you. That's for sure. I also assume.
Okay, yes, I wash my hands. Then I drink a big glass of water.
All right. Do you brush your teeth?
Well, later, but yeah eventually.
So sometime in your morning routine, you brush your teeth. You probably, and maybe we're getting a little personal, you probably take a shower, right? You probably get dressed, right? You probably make a cup of
most
coffee.
Days.
Yeah. So,
yes, too.
So when I'm working with professionals and teaching and training them and certifying them in the Tiny Habits method, one of the exercises that I have them do, and this will be a fun one for you to do if you want to do it, Ryan, is take a sheet of paper and list all of their existing routines on a daily basis, very much like you would with a food log, listing everything that you eat. But start listing, and it might take you 3 or 4 days to really get a complete list. But here again, once you start looking for those existing routines that you can use as anchor moments, you'll see that you have quite a few of them. In fact, my daughter, Brittany, that you met, one of her tiny habit recipes, and as you know, Brittany is a mom of 6. Yeah, we have large families in my family. She's a mom of 6. She's a personal trainer. She also works with me. She's very busy, but she gets through 5 to 8 books a month. How does she do that?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing, right? She has a tiny habit recipe of after I sit in the car and buckle my seatbelt, that's an anchor moment because that's something she does pretty frequently. I will push play on my Audible book. So the anchor moment is buckling her seatbelt. Her tiny behavior is simply pushing play on the Audible book and then, congratulating herself or saying, good job. Somehow making her feel good that she reinforces that behavior. And so as a result, it's her habit to listen to Audible books while she's driving her kids around, while she's driving to clients' houses, while she's running errands, because she has that habit already set in that once she buckles her seatbelt, her next step is to push play on her Audible. And so that's how she gets through so much content. This is interesting, and this is probably going to be an interesting insight for those that listen to you and follow you. What we have found is that the Tiny Habits method is most effective for people that are extremely busy. Now, that might sound counterintuitive, But
it does.
yeah, but this is an approach where it helps them streamline their lives and open up more time. This is an approach that as you start consciously designing your day and what you want it to look like, you're able to actually do more. Like, if Brittany said, oh, I want to read 5 books this month, or I want to listen to 5 books this month, if she didn't have this habit in place, she'd have to consciously think about, oh, when am I going to listen to my book, or when I'm going to read my book? But by creating habits, and we've also found this with people that are highly stressed. We've worked with some nurses at the Stanford Healthcare Center in the ER. And Stanford came to us and said, hey, can you help our nurses reduce stress? And our answer is, yes, we can. And, they're very, very busy. But we were able to help them insert habits during their daily routine while they are at work to help them reduce stress. Things such as simple as after I log into Epic, which is their computer system, I will take 3 deep breaths, which we know that behavior helps reduce our heart rate, helps reduce our cortisol levels, and really helps us focus. And then celebrate the fact that they were able to do that. It helped them really be really be focused on their patients and to avoid making costly errors or life-challenging errors in that case. Mm-hmm. But then oftentimes people say, well, what if I want to do something big? What if I want to do a bigger behavior? One of my clients wanted to walk for 30 minutes every day. Now, as you know, as a business owner, I'm the same way too, Ryan. Sometimes working out gets pushed to the back of our schedule or doesn't happen because we have other priorities, like, something that is burning and on fire that we need to deal with first thing in the morning or later in the day, right?
Right.
They're not our kids. But one of my clients wanted to walk for 30 minutes every day after dinner. Now, after dinner is probably a typical anchor moment for most of us, but that's not a specific prompt. It's not specific enough. So as I worked with Rebecca, I asked her, Rebecca, what do you do after dinner? Tell me your dinner routine. She goes, well, I clear the table. I put the food away, all those steps. The very last step of her after dinner routine was pushing start on the dishwasher. Mm-hmm. So we use that as the anchor moment because that was really specific. It would be a prompt. And so that there we found the anchor moment. And when she said she wanted to walk for 30 minutes every day after dinner, I said, do you have that time slot? Do you have that time available? And she said, yes. Had she said no, we would have either made that time smaller or we would have found a different time of the day. Now, for Rebecca, 30 minutes, and for all of our clients, 30 minutes is not tiny enough for Tiny Habits Method. The behavior needs to be so tiny that there's no resistance to doing that behavior, and there's no willpower or motivation needed. And so we scale it back to the tiniest behavior that we can actually create. And that's our goal, is to create that as an automatic behavior, to plant a little seed. Once that seed is planted, it starts to grow and expand to be the desired size. That's just what happens. It grows naturally. And so with Rebecca, what I suggested that she do is after she start the dishwasher, she put on her walking shoes and celebrate that so that she was ready to go walking. Now her response was like, oh, that's so easy. Yeah, I can do that. Why can't I? Of course I can do that.
Right.
But what we were doing is I was helping her get ready to actually go walking. And by celebrating, she felt good about creating that as an automatic behavior. Now, the other caveat is I said, Rebecca, if you want to go ahead and walk after dinner, absolutely go ahead and do that. You don't feel like you can't walk. But what we're training as the automatic behavior is just getting on your walking shoes. Well, within 10 days, she was walking consistently. Now, I didn't care if it was 5 minutes. I didn't care if it was 30 minutes. That's not what I was aiming for. I was aiming to help her create that as part of her nighttime routine. And it worked very well. You can look at it as a hack if you want, but it's a way that's scientifically proven that as you start creating these tiny baby steps, just like how a baby starts to walk, they don't go from crawling to running. They're tiny baby steps. And when they're put in the right place and they're well designed as far as the prompt that tells you to do the next step, and you're reinforcing it with a positive emotion, then that habit will take root and expand and grow to be the size desired.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing makes sense. When you say tiny habit, it's like not only is that like, oh, well, I can do something tiny. I'm super busy and I don't have whatever, but it's like when I sit, at least when I used to sit down at my computer and like start work, I'd open my computer and the first thing I would do is like jump into my email. And that was not a good habit to have, right? Because then it would dictate the rest of my day. Right. So if I had just something small that I knew, hey, when I open up my computer, instead of opening email, because I know that that's like not, I should be opening my task list or my calendar so that I can like write down the thing, just something other than the thing that's going to dictate the rest of my day, like something that's not set in stone. And it could be something like so small, but without identifying what that thing is, and without like having the like, oh yeah, like putting on my shoes leads to going for a walk, or and I sit down at my desk, maybe not opening my computer, maybe it's like I do something else to trigger me to think like that. Just it makes sense. I'm wondering. The celebration part. Yeah. I mean, I'm a pretty cheesy guy. I've got, dad jokes galore. I'm a total cheese ball. And I'm also one that's like, will maybe pat myself on the back or something. But do you ever get pushback on like, Linda, that's like, it's just like too cheesy. It's not my personality. I don't, for the person that might be struggling with that, like, do you have any more thoughts on how to overcome those feelings of like, this is so dumb. I hope nobody hears me or sees me right now.
Well, I love that you asked this question, because this is the most challenging part of the Tiny Habits method. Oh. However, it is also the secret sauce. It's what really helps lock and wire those habits in. I work with people from all over the world. And so as you can imagine, the Brits say, oh, we don't celebrate, this gets started. I can't do a British accent, but
I was going to say that's the worst, probably the worst British accent I've ever, it's worse than mine.
Yeah, I cannot do a British accent, but anyway, or people Obviously. In Asia, they say it's against our culture to celebrate. My response to that is, too bad, get over it. You still need to celebrate, but yet you can, not very, it is understanding, but I also understand the impact of celebration. Yeah. And that's what's really changed my life. I was really adverse to celebrating when I first did the Tiny Habits method. When I was working with BJ, when we were first developing it. Now he's like you. He's a fun and guy that everybody loves to be around, and he brings in so much joy and happiness to everybody's life. So celebrating was natural for him. For me, my nickname in my family is literal Linda. If it doesn't make sense to me, I just don't get it or I don't do it. Didn't make sense to me either. But as you start realizing, we celebrate every day. We celebrate like, we're big Vegas Golden Knights fan here in Las Vegas. We watch the hockey games all the time. And when our team makes a good goal or, whatever, yes, go, yes, we celebrate. We feel good about that. Yeah. When your child does something that is something you're proud of, it makes you feel good. Maybe when you get in the shortest line at the grocery store, if you're like me, you think, yes, I figured it out this time. So we're releasing those positive emotions and those endorphins all the time. What you need to do is just start being aware of that and using those same emotions, those same celebrations to reinforce habits. One of my daughters, you met one of my other daughters, McCall, about a year ago, she shared with me the way that she celebrates. And I thought, that's brilliant. What she does is when she's experiencing something that brings her joy, that moment, she says she takes a Polaroid shot of it in her brain. She snaps a picture of it. And, video people, I'm sure you realize that, pictures are worth 1,000 words. I know that's a really tired saying, but it really is true. And so, consciously taking a snapshot, a mental snapshot of an experience that you're having or something that makes you feel good, and being able to pull up that snapshot and associate those emotions to new habits is a way of celebrating as well. So it doesn't have to be a cheer. It doesn't have to be a cartwheel. It doesn't have to be anything that's physical, but it does need to be something that helps you feel good and associate those feelings with the new behavior that you're wanting to create.
Yeah. And I think the thing that's sort of like opening my mind to understanding this better is that there's endorphins involved. There's like things that the brain or the body says like, yes, like this, even though it seems contrived, if I'm putting my feet on the floor and I'm like, all right, Coral, we got this, whatever my thing is, it would never be something like that. But if it were, like for whatever reason, if that's the habit that I have, it's just weird to think that the brain says, yes, okay, yeah, and the body is like responding. And that's actually true. That's what you're saying, like is kind of happening.
And not kind of, that's exactly what's happening. In fact,
So
you just opened the door for me to debunk one of the myths that's so prevalent today.
Ooh.
And there's a couple of them, actually, I'm going to debunk right now. So hold on to your hats, guys.
Okay.
One of them is that repetition creates habits. It does not. It's emotions that create habits. And I'm going to give you an example. And I want you to, all of you to think, and you, Ryan, to think of an example in your own life. I want you to think about something that you do consistently now that didn't take 21 days. That's the other thing. It does not take 21 days to create a habit. If you have the right
That's what I've heard, though.
Oh, it's a lie. It's a lie.
Okay.
Well, it's a myth. I won't use the word lie. It's a myth. It doesn't take 21 days. It doesn't take 60 days. That fallacy originated from a study that was done in 2009 called the Lolly study. But that study has been misinterpreted. That study is, and without getting into all the details, that study is a correlation study, not a causation study. There's a big difference there. A causation study is that if you do this, A then leads to B. Every time you do A, it'll be B. Correlation study is that, you might feel like it's more automatic. You might feel like you're learning the skill better, but it does not create the habit. So that's where that gets misinterpreted. And one of the ways that you can, that in your own life, that you can really see the fact that it's not repetition and it's not 21 days or 60 days, whatever the studies say, you can create a habit very quickly and easily if you're using your emotions. Let's go back to thinking about something that you do now that only took you once or twice, but that you do consistently. I'll share what I do. One of the things that I do. I have an Aura ring. I also have a big hanging up Christmas lights. I scrape my fingers, so don't look at that. I have an Aura ring. And if you know what an Aura ring, it measures your biometrics. I have a challenge with sleep. And so I was very interested in my sleep patterns, what was going on when I wasn't conscious and how I could create habits to improve my sleep. Now, my Aura ring pairs with an app on my phone, and it gives me a reading every day as to how I slept the night before. And so by doing this the very first day, that became an automatic behavior that I've done now every day for a year and a half. It wasn't because it was 21 days. It wasn't repetition, but it's because it made me feel good. It gave me the power to know what was going on when I was asleep. It helped me feel like, okay, now I know how I can adjust my nighttime routine or my morning routines to really help facilitate better sleep. So look at your life and see, what have you done maybe once or twice, but now that you do consistently. Social media is a good example. We get on social media probably almost every day. We get on social media. Sometimes it might not make us feel good, but it takes away our feeling of missing out, the FOMO. It removes the FOMO feeling so that we then have a positive exchange as far as an emotional attachment to that. So I'm going to put you on the spot again. What do you do as part of your daily routines or as your habits that locked in right away?
I feel like over the years, my habits change, the things that I do change.
Yeah. Well,
I drink coffee every morning. How about that?
Good. Yeah. I'm so glad you said that.
That's
I was going to prompt you to go there. Yeah. Drinking coffee. Did it take you 21 days to create that habit to drink coffee?
No, and funny, as we're talking about this, I'm like, I started drinking coffee with my friend Will. I was 30 years old before I really was like, this is a real cup of coffee, no sugar or anything. And he made a French press. I was like, man, this is delicious. And we would meet Friday mornings and he would make this cup of coffee and we would just have like these deep, meaningful conversations. And we did this for a couple of months. And then I was like, man, like I really like the coffee, but I also love like what we experience when we meet. And so then I just started like with my morning quiet time ritual, I would make a cup of coffee and sit down, I would read, I would journal. And so it was like an experience that I wanted.
Exactly. You felt good about it. You wanted to keep doing it. So that's a perfect example of how emotions create habits. And it's not repetition, it's not 21 days, but it's actually focusing on, how they make us feel, that they make us feel good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good habits and bad habits are formed exactly the same way. Oftentimes bad habits are formed because we're trying to remove some pain. We're trying to alleviate something that is causing us anxiety or pain in some way. So here again, it's a positive trade-off that we're feeling better about that. We're feeling better for some reason. Unfortunately, very true with my son who passed away from an Oxycontin overdose. He was a football player, a wrestler, a personal trainer. He was in a lot of physical pain, and he started taking medication to take that pain away, which unfortunately he got addicted to. Here again, the reality is it's our emotions that create habits. And so tapping into those emotions to use them positively to create the life that we want is really key. Also, in the example of Garrett, he was reducing his pain and increasing his emotions of feeling good. So here again, this is a principle that's a true principle that applies to every aspect of our life. So when we're wanting to create habits, or like you just shared with us, Ryan, your morning routine around drinking your cup of coffee where it made you feel good to do that, we can learn from that and realize that as business owners, what would our ideal day look like? Or maybe let's take it smaller. What would our ideal morning look like? And how can we design that morning to go the way we want it to go? It's through habits and routines. Now, oftentimes I get asked, well, what's the difference between habits and routines? In my opinion, a routine is made up of a series of habits. It's what you do during a period of time. And so as you're looking at your day as a business owner and wanting to be more productive or wanting to feel better about what you're doing, wanting to reach more people, wanting to, help clients have more sales and be more effective, you need to think specifically about what that looks like. And then specificity is one of the hardest human skills to design and to develop. So try to get really specific as to, what your ideal morning looks like, and then start creating those little tiny habits to help you eventually design that morning so that you have the experience that you just had, that you just shared with us around your coffee.
Yeah. Linda, I think that's really good. The part that when I think about my early business ownership journey, it was like just knowing that I had so much to do. I had to get into my computer and start doing things like right away. Like, I drank my coffee, had my little quiet time, and then like, okay, time to go. But it was years before I said, what does my ideal day look like? And do I want to start? Is this the best way to start? Is there a more strategic way? Now, after reading deep work and hearing more people who do this practice, I'm realizing that the most creative I am in the day is in the morning. Mm-hmm. And what I used to always do is all of this like administrative, email, like calendar, like just making sure that everything's good for the rest of the day. And then I get to like 1 or 2 p.m. and I'm like, okay, I need a nap. And then I get up from this 20-minute nap and I'm like, man, I don't want to like, get on video or like, do some, I just want to like check out. So I had to like literally look at, okay, what's my energy like? Where am I most creative? Where am I most effective? What should I be doing when? Am I just like doing all of the things whenever they come up and just as, putting out fires? And that's how it was for the longest time. But once I said, oh, if I can be strategic about my day and I can plan my day out, when can I be the best at the different things? What are the different things that I need to do every single day? And even planning on things that might like spur of the moment things that you can't really plan for. I think that's a really, really good point that I don't want to go unnoticed, is that if you haven't looked at your day and what is your ideal workday look like, that's an amazing place to start, because without that, all of these tiny habits that we might want, there's really no place for them. We can't even fit them in.
Well, and I think exactly. And I think it comes down to living intentionally and building the best business intentionally and changing people's lives intentionally and living by design. And you can't do that by happenstance. You've got to have a plan, and you've got to have habits that serve you in order to help you achieve that. So this is a way that I've helped a lot of people use to really become their best selves in a very chaotic world and be able to help themselves help others in a world that has lost a lot of hope. And so we know, I mean, we've studied this. We do week after week. We have our free 5-day Tiny Habits program that anybody can sign up for. And we track the results. We track where people have breakthroughs just in 5 days. And the number one thing that's most important about habit formation is confidence. The confidence that you have the ability to make changes in your life and you have a systematic approach that actually works. That's the number one thing. The other thing that's interesting that we study is what we call the ripple effect. So as you're successful and as you're starting to feel successful, that's the biggest key, is feeling successful with these tiny movements forward. There's a ripple effect where other areas of your life start falling into place and you have breakthroughs in those areas as well, because it's success momentum. That makes sense.
Totally.
And the other thing that we've studied is you can create habits in 5 days if you have the right approach. And the right approach is, the anchor moment that prompts a really tiny behavior and feeling good about that, attaching a positive emotion with that, the ABCs of habit formation. One thing that I do want to really focus on for a minute here, and, as business owners and entrepreneurs, is our mindset. Our, how we think, how we feel, and how we can design to always have a positive mindset, or maybe not always, but more often than not, to really set ourselves up for success, to have a positive mindset. Because if you get up in the morning and you're already defeated or you're already feeling behind, guess what? It's going to be a tough day. Back to the last 10 years of my life, not only did we lose my son, we used to have a home building business here in Las Vegas that unfortunately during the housing crisis, we lost because we were a small family builder. We lost our home, which was a 5-acre horse ranch, which was my dream. I have a daughter who has bipolar illness that was in and out of the psych hospital. That was very devastating. And in the midst of all this, my husband was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's at the age of 58. I felt very defeated. I was really struggling here again with apathy and depression. During the time that my husband Brent was declining with his Alzheimer's illness, to the point where he got where he could not shower for himself, he couldn't brush his teeth, he couldn't dress himself. I had to help him with all of that. And I was building my business, and I got to the point where I just can't do this. And we had lost everything, by the way, ground zero. We had filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy from our home building, losing our home building business. So I was starting over, had children in college, children at home that needed to be supported. I felt very overwhelmed. And as I was trying to care for Brent, I realized that I was getting overwhelmed to the point where I was being paralyzed. I just didn't know, I felt like I was shackled. But then I realized, I can use tiny habits. And this is actually the Pearl Habits approach, is where you use the tiny habits method to create beauty and positivity in your life from challenges and difficult situations. And by this time, I had realized that celebration was really transformative and really helpful in helping me stay positive and helping me to move forward as opposed to being stuck. And so as Brent started to decline and I realized that I was getting a little bit depressed and feeling overwhelmed, I thought, okay, I need to design a tiny habit recipe that will help me combat this feeling of overwhelm. And so I looked for an anchor moment that happened frequently throughout the day, which is flushing the toilet. So that's a really good anchor moment. And so my tiny habit recipe that I designed during that time to really help bolster me up was, after I flush the toilet, I will think of one person that has made a difference in my life that I'm grateful for. And I'd celebrate the fact that that person was in my life. What happened here again, it was one of the things that happened was expected and was a result of why I designed that habit, was it pulled me out of that depressive state. It gave me the opportunity to release endorphins and dopamine by design at least about 7 times a day. So that was effective. But what happened that really surprised me, because when I was in the midst of this challenge, I was feeling very lonely. I was feeling very isolated. Now I had family, I had friends around me, but nonetheless, I felt the burden was all on me. Once I started doing this tiny habit recipe, it helped me realize that I wasn't alone. I had a lot of family and friends at any point in time would continue to help me as needed. I just needed to reach out to them. And so it gave me that strength. It helped me build resilience. It really gave me the ability to bounce back from that difficult situation.
Wow. Man, that's powerful. I'm thank you for sharing that. I've got some people in my life that could definitely use some of that help there. That's really good. Did we cover all the ABCs?
Yeah, the anchor moment, which is your existing routines, that acts as a prompt. The tiny behavior, the behavior needs to be so tiny. What we teach our coaches, and I don't necessarily share this a lot publicly because we don't want people focusing on timing their behaviors. But if you had to say, well, is this habit tiny enough? If the habit takes 30 seconds or less to complete, then that's typically tiny enough because it doesn't take motivation or willpower to complete. And usually there's not resistance. So you just need to start tiny, those baby steps, and start creating, planting that little tiny seed. So that's the B. The C is the instant celebration, reinforcing that behavior with positive emotions. Not to throw more science or technology or, information into this, it can get confusing. But the tiny habits method was born out of my brother's design of what's called the Fogg behavior model. And this is a really good model to understand how human behavior works. The Fogg behavior model states that a behavior happens when any behavior, and start watching your own behaviors, but for any behavior to happen, you need to have these three elements in place at the same time. That's the key. So for behavior to happen, you need to have motivation to do the behavior. You need to have the ability to do the behavior, and you need to have a prompt or a call to action to do the behavior. And all three of those need to be present at once. So often we get caught in the mindset, oh, I'm just not motivated, or I need motivation. That's not accurate. Yes, you do need to want to do the behavior, but the most important part of that is that there needs to be a call to action, which is the prompt, when you have the ability to do that behavior. And, you can look up the Fogg behavior model online and have a pretty extensive, comprehensive walkthrough of that. But as you're looking at the Fogg behavior model in relationship to the tiny habits method, and models teach us how to think, methods teach us how to do. So as you see, the prompt is the anchor moment. That's the call to action to do the behavior. In the Fogg behavior model, when we say you need to increase ability, which is making the behavior really easy to do, that's making the behavior tiny in the tiny habits method. And the motivation comes in one of our maxims that we use. We have two maxims. One is help people do what they already want to do. That addresses the motivation. If it's something that you should, don't do it, because you're going to be struggling with that. The second maxim is help people feel successful or help yourself feel successful. And that really is, we succeed and we thrive when we're feeling successful, not when we're feeling like we're not good enough or we're not doing enough. And so try to change your thinking to really help yourself celebrate those tiny wins, celebrate those tiny habits. For me, when I make it through a green light when I'm driving around town, I say, yes, good job, way to go, because I'm practicing celebration. And that can be used anytime, not just with your habits, but it will really change your perspective and change your life if you learn how to focus on the positive and, delineate or shy away from what you aren't doing well enough. Yeah, we need to change, but if we focus on what we're doing right and what's going on, or even with relationships, focus on helping your children feel good or your spouse feel good about what they're doing, you'll see your relationship dynamic change for the better. So. Yeah,
that's really good. If there was, yes.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, I have a question. So if you want to finish your thought there.
I just wanted to carry through the thought again about the Maui habit. And I know I've shared this with you before, but this is where I'm an expert in habits. I'll say that very, candidly. I've worked with my brother, Dr. B.J. Fogg, for, 15 years professionally. I've learned from him. He's brilliant. But I'm always surprised oftentimes by creating habits and what the results are, or creating habits, how easy they are able to be created, or by creating habits and really knowing that there's another impact by that habit that I wasn't anticipating, very much like my gratitude habit. Gratitude is one of the most powerful habits that you could develop for creating a positive lifestyle or creating the kind of energy around you that you want to have. Yeah. Ryan, that unfortunately due to Alzheimer's, I did lose my husband in July of 2020, and we lost him very quick. We knew we were going to lose him at some point, but we lost him very, very quickly, simply due to the complications that Alzheimer's had with his ability to swallow. That was still a very difficult time, even though we knew it was coming. I'm often asked, well, is it easier to lose somebody, unexpectedly, like we lost our son, or lose somebody that you know that you're losing slowly and slowly? I don't think it's easy no matter what. But when we lost Brent, in the middle of COVID, we've lived in Las Vegas for 38 years. He was a very influential man in our community, did a lot of community service, very active in our church, was a well-known builder in our community for many, many years. I knew that there would be a lot of people that wanted to pay their respects to him. So we were able to have a COVID-style viewing and funeral. Now, coming up on those days, I knew that they were going to be probably some of the hardest days of my life, and I didn't want to go into that feeling like the poor widow or poor me.
Yeah, sure.
And as I got closer to those days, the Maui habit, which I've done every single day since 2012, I knew that habit wasn't going to hold up those days because they weren't going to be great days. I mean, let's be honest. My literal Linda side kicked in. Those were not going to be great days. They were going to be hard days. And this is the beauty of the tiny habits method. It's very fluid. You can revise habits to achieve what you want to achieve. Or like you mentioned before, some habits are temporary and some habits are longer term. Well, as I got closer to those days, I knew that I was not going to have I could not say it's going to be a great day when my feet hit the floor. I just knew that wasn't going to be congruent with how I knew the day was going to be. So I revised that habit to be that after my feet hit the floor in the morning, I said, I'm going to make it a great day for those that come to pay their respects to Brent. And so that gave me consciously the ability to focus on people that came through the line, that came up to talk to me. I had made the conscious decision those 2 mornings to acknowledge them, to highlight what they have done in my life, and to express gratitude to them. As a result, those 2 days were great days for me. And they were great days for everybody that came to the viewing and the funeral. Yeah,
there's a lot of freedom in that, knowing that, because that does feel weird to say it's going to be a great day. It's like, okay, I can only trick my brain so much. Like, this is not, but to make it more practical, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but still like kind of moving in that direction. Another big takeaway for me too is the idea of momentum. And, I think there's always people in our lives who are like, man, like whatever that person touches, it turns to gold. They've got the Midas touch. But I would say part of that is because they have momentum, right? And it probably started with some tiny habits, whether they made it by choice or just sort of happened. But and it's the same thing. People, the rich get richer. It's like, well, yeah, because then they figure out other ways that they can make money, and you can only make that much money if you have this much money, and it's just like this the snowball effect. Man, that's hilarious. But it just makes sense. So I love that we're kind of we're in a position. It's a new year. We've got opportunity to look at our schedule, look at our week, look at our day. What do we want it to look like? We know there's going to be interruptions. There's things that we can't plan for, but let's at least go into our days planning even before we start work. What do we want our before we work portion of our day to look like? What do we want our work day to look like? And what do we want our shutdown, after work? What should that look like? For anybody, not anybody, for all of us, if there was one habit that you think a business owner should focus on without knowing all of us individually, what would you say that should be or could be?
Here again, it's unique depending on what that business owner wants to achieve. And so we can design habits for those specific aspirations or outcomes, or what you can call goals. But here again, I'm going to default to the one habit I always recommend that my clients implement, and that's the Maui habit. And the reason why is because by saying it's going to be a great day, and maybe it's not when your feet hit the ground in the morning. A lot of my clients revise that habit to be after I sit down to have my morning cup of coffee, I'll say, whatever, I'll say, I'm going to make it a great day for my children. I'm going to make it a great day for my spouse. But by some habit that you have early in the day that creates a positive mindset and sets your intention, that's really the key word, is a habit. Setting your intention habitually is what's going to help you really achieve what you want to achieve. And the momentum, I call it success momentum, because it will push you forward in other areas as well. So that's the habit that I really have seen the most impact in people's lives, is some form of the Maui habit. Another, and there's a secondary habit. If you say, no, that's not really for me, I don't really want to really do that. some kind of habit of gratitude. That will also help you move forward and have that mindset of success, as well as the mindset of being, gratitude is contagious. One of my current clients, she's actually from London. She's really struggling with a lot of challenges in life right now. And one of the habits, and she wants to create the habit of gratitude, but she was struggling with that. And so, and her name is Ina. And I said, hey, Ina, how about we do this? After you brush your teeth in the morning, write down one thing that you're grateful for in a notebook. Can you do that? And I said, get a notebook, put it by your toothbrush, put a pen there so that it's right there, that as soon as you put your toothbrush down, you write one thing that you're grateful for. So yesterday I had a coaching session with her, and she was blown away how effective this had been for her. She goes, it has changed my life. She says, it's changed my relationships with my daughter. It has changed how I look at life. It's changed how I view what's going on my day, because I focus on what's right and not what's wrong. And so I think as business owners, we have a lot of challenges. There are a lot of things that go wrong, especially technology in our lives.
Yes, right.
But, as we focus on what's right and create a habit of gratitude, I think you'll find that impacts your bottom line in your business. It impacts how much money you attract. It impacts how many clients you attract. It really impacts a lot of things that will be surprises to you.
So good. Wow. Really powerful. Linda, you've got a new podcast, share that and share where else people can find you online and look into all the cool things that you guys have going on.
Thank you. Yes. A new podcast called Pearl Habits. You can find it at pearlhabits.com. And this is using what we're talking about with the Pearl Habits podcast. And we will have some resources on that site. I'm putting some new resources up soon. We want to give you tools and skills that will help you overcome challenges and the reason we're calling it pearl is just like an oyster. There's a little grain of sand that gets stuck inside of the oyster. Now, the oyster has a choice. It can shrivel up and die because of that irritant or that challenge. But what does it typically do? It builds layers and layers and layers of mother of pearl around that grain of sand. And in the end, it produces a gem, a gift that it gives to the world. So that's the application of the Pearl Habits. And so we'll be following people's application of creating positivity out of difficult situations and giving others hope that they can do this too. So that's where you can find Pearl Habits.
Love that. If
you want to learn more about the Tiny Habits method itself, we do have courses that are available. We also have a certification program, and that can be found at the tinyhabitsacademy.com website. And you can also sign up for our free 5-day program there as well. We offer that every single week of the year. We partner you with one of our trained coaches or a coach in training. It's an email-based program, so you can do it at your convenience, but it really is an impactful type of an experience.
I love it. Man, I'm so appreciative of the impact that you're having in the world. Thank you for bringing your gift to us all, and I'm excited for the new show and everything that this year is going to bring. It's going to be a great year. It's going to be a great day, and I'm grateful for our friendship. Thank you for being with us today, Linda.
Thank you, Ryan.
Tiny Habits, so good. I'm so glad that Linda was able to join us. Make sure to check out the show notes for more information on Linda and the Tiny Habits Academy and community and all that stuff. You can get quick access to the show notes just by going to studiosherpas.com/315, because this was the 315th episode. You can leave a comment or email me and let me know your thoughts on this particular episode. Are you going to try any of these tiny habit practices that Linda shared, like the Maui habits? I think it's so cool, so practical. Or I'd love to hear a habit that you're going to create. If you want to, kind of just get some accountability, one of the first things you can do is share with somebody what you're intending to do. And that just helps reinforce, I think, like neurons and synapses and things in your brain that I probably have no business talking about. But anyway, and then don't forget the 5-day Grow Your Video Business Challenge is only 1 week away. So sign up today. And remember, even if you're not available, if you're on a shoot all week next week and you want to be able to watch the replays later in the evening or early in the morning, the only way you're going to be able to get access to those is if you sign up. And the place that you do that is by going to studiosherpas.com/challenge. Sorry. I'm just going to keep playing with that word until I hear it not sound so like Michigan. Okay. I think that's all I've got. I appreciate you. I'm grateful for you. I hope this was an impactful episode. I love talking about habits and just like trying to just become the best version of ourselurselves. Because when we're that, we're able to show up so much better for our families and for our employees and work and all of that stuff. So cheers to you, my friend. Way to make it to the end of another episode. I will see you next week on the podcast, but I'll also hopefully see you in person-ish, virtually, in the challenge. Okay, talk to you later. See you, bye.